On May 1, 1994, the world of motorsport witnessed one of the darkest days in its history. What began as a routine race weekend at the San Marino Grand Prix quickly transformed into a tragedy that shook Formula One to its core. The weekend would later be remembered as the Black Weekend, a devastating sequence of events that claimed the lives of 2 drivers and forced the sport to confront long-standing safety concerns. At the center of this heartbreaking story was one of the greatest racing drivers ever to sit behind the wheel, Ayrton Senna. A season full of pressure. The 1994 Formula One season had begun with intense competition and significant rule changes. The sport's governing body, Federation Internationale de l'Automobile, had introduced new regulations aimed at reducing technological advantages. Systems such as active suspension, traction control, and other advanced driver aids were banned. The intention was to make racing more competitive and exciting for fans. However, these changes also made the cars far more difficult to drive. Senna had recently left his longtime team, McLaren, where he had won 3 world championships. In 1994, he joined Williams Racing, which had dominated the previous season with the most technologically advanced car on the grid. But the new regulations had dramatically altered the car's behavior. Despite driving what many believed to be the fastest car in Formula One, Senna had endured a frustrating start to the season. In the opening 2 races, he failed to score a single point, while his rival Michael Schumacher won both races for Benetton Formula. By the time the championship arrived at 1994 San Marino Grand Prix, the pressure on Senna was enormous, a terrifying crash in practice. The tension of the weekend began on Friday during practice sessions. Young Brazilian driver Rubens Barrichello suffered a frightening accident at high speed. His car launched into the air after hitting a curb and slammed violently into the barriers at nearly 225 kilometers per hour. The crash left Barrichello unconscious. Emergency crews rushed to the scene, fearing the worst. For several tense moments, it appeared his career, and possibly his life, might be over. Barrichello had swallowed his tongue during the impact, making it difficult for him to breathe. Medical staff quickly intervened, and after urgent treatment, he regained consciousness. Remarkably, his injuries were relatively minor, including a broken nose and some bruising. One of the first people waiting for him after the crash was Senna. The 2 drivers shared a close relationship. Senna had supported Barrichello earlier in his career, helping fund his karting competitions and offering guidance during his rise through motorsport. Although Barrichello survived, the frightening incident cast a shadow over the weekend. Unfortunately, the worst was still to come: the death of Roland Ratzenberger. On Saturday, during the second qualifying session, tragedy struck. Austrian driver Roland Ratzenberger was competing in only his 3rd Formula One race for the small Simtech team. While pushing hard to improve his position on the grid, Ratzenberger ran over a curb that damaged the front wing of his car. The damage initially went unnoticed. Moments later, as Ratzenberger approached the extremely fast Tamburello corner at more than 300 kilometers per hour, the weakened wing suddenly detached. Without aerodynamic downforce, the car became uncontrollable. It slammed into a concrete wall at nearly full speed. The impact was catastrophic. Track marshals and medical teams rushed to the scene, but Ratzenberger had suffered fatal injuries. He died instantly from a basilar skull fracture. It was the first fatal accident during a Formula One race weekend in more than a decade. For Senna, the news was devastating. He was deeply shaken by the loss of a fellow driver and immediately became concerned about the safety conditions of the sport. Senna's growing concern. Throughout the weekend, Senna repeatedly expressed fears that the new regulations had made the cars unstable and potentially dangerous. After Ratzenberger's crash, Senna personally visited the accident site. Using the safety car, he traveled to the corner where the fatal incident had occurred to understand what had happened. Later, during driver meetings, he pushed strongly for improved safety measures. He also proposed reviving the Grand Prix Drivers Association, an organization that had previously worked to improve driver safety standards. The drivers agreed that action needed to be taken, but the race would still go ahead. Race day, a troubled start. On Sunday morning, the drivers gathered for a solemn briefing. The atmosphere was heavy with emotion. Before discussions began, everyone observed a minute of silence in memory of Ratzenberger. Senna, who had secured pole position, prepared for the race carrying a small Austrian flag in his car. His intention was to wave it at the finish line as a tribute to the fallen driver. Few could have imagined how symbolic that gesture would become. When the race started, chaos erupted almost immediately. One of the cars stalled on the grid, triggering a collision behind it. Debris scattered across the track, injuring several spectators and a police officer. The incident forced the race to continue under a safety car. At the time, safety cars were rarely used in Formula One, especially on dry tracks. The slow pace caused tire temperatures to drop dramatically, reducing grip once racing resumed. Senna immediately signaled for the safety car to speed up, concerned about losing tire temperature. But the race restarted only a few laps later. The fatal crash. When the safety car pulled into the pits, the race resumed at full speed. Senna led the field, with Schumacher closely behind. On lap 7, everything changed. As Senna approached the high-speed Tamburello corner, his Williams suddenly veered off the racing line. The car slammed into the concrete wall at more than 300 kilometers per hour. The impact was devastating. Although Senna attempted to brake before hitting the barrier, the speed at impact remained extremely high. Debris from the car scattered across the track as emergency crews rushed to the scene. Initially, television viewers around the world watched in stunned silence as commentators struggled to understand what had happened. When medical teams arrived, they detected a faint pulse. However, a piece of the car's suspension had pierced Senna's helmet visor, causing a severe head injury. He was airlifted by helicopter to a hospital in Bologna. Despite the best efforts of doctors, Senna was later pronounced dead. He was 34 years old. Shock across the racing world. While Senna was being transported to the hospital, the race continued. Eventually, Schumacher won the Grand Prix, but the victory meant nothing to the racing community. News of Senna's death spread rapidly across the globe. In Brazil, the reaction was overwhelming. Millions of people mourned the loss of a national hero. The Brazilian government declared 3 days of national mourning, and Senna's funeral drew enormous crowds in São Paulo. His legacy extended far beyond motorsport. To many, Senna represented determination, faith, and an unrelenting pursuit of excellence. A turning point for Formula One. The tragic events of that weekend forced Formula One to confront serious safety issues. In the years that followed, the FIA introduced sweeping reforms to improve driver protection. Circuits were redesigned, barriers were improved, and cockpit safety features were enhanced. New crash standards, head protection systems, and stricter regulations dramatically reduced the risk of fatal accidents. For many years afterward, no driver died during a Formula One race. The legacy of Senna and Ratzenberger became a powerful reminder of why safety must always remain the sport's highest priority. The legacy of Ayrton Senna. Today, Senna is remembered as one of the greatest drivers in the history of Formula One. His incredible skill, unmatched determination, and fearless driving style earned him 3 world championships and millions of fans worldwide. But perhaps his most lasting legacy is the transformation of safety in motorsport. The lessons learned from that tragic weekend ultimately saved countless lives. The San Marino Grand Prix of 1994 remains one of the most painful chapters in racing history. Yet it also became a turning point, one that reshaped the sport forever. And in that sense, the legacy of Ayrton Senna continues to guide Formula One even today. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more deep dives into the most dramatic moments in motorsport history, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel.